You just dropped 800 USD on a brand new beastly graphics card. You fire up your favorite game expecting pure, buttery smoothness, and instead, it is an absolute stuttering mess.
Well, prepare to have your mind blown, because that expensive new GPU isn't stuttering because it's broken. It's stuttering because it's bored. Literally.
So, how in the world does an absolute powerhouse like an 800 USD RTX 5070 Ti flawlessly crank out incredibly demanding 4K visuals, but completely choke and stutter on a standard 1080p monitor? That's the exact mystery we're unraveling today, by breaking down the mechanical reality of your hardware with radical simplicity.
Let's start with the anatomy of a bottleneck, looking at the hard physical realities of PC hardware.
To really get what's happening inside your system, we first need to look at the relationship between your processor, the CPU, and your graphics card, the GPU. Imagine your CPU is a kitchen assistant furiously prepping ingredients. It's doing all the math for physics, geometry, and game logic. Your GPU? That's the master chef, just waiting to actually cook the meal and render those beautiful frames. But if the assistant is too slow, the master chef is literally just standing around, tapping their foot. That awkward pause? That is the exact stutter you're feeling in-game.
Or think of it this way. The CPU is a crew paving a road right in front of a speeding car. The GPU is a sports car that desperately wants to go 200 miles per hour. But hey, if the CPU can only pave that road at 150 miles per hour, your top speed is strictly capped. Boom, you've got a 50 mile per hour bottleneck. The sports car is forced to slam on the brakes, wait for more road, and then speed up again. Chug, chug, chug.
Which leads us to the resolution paradox. This is where it gets crazy. This is why making your games easier to run actually makes them perform worse. Take this user-verified data, for example, pairing a beastly RTX 5070 Ti with a budget i5 processor. At 1080p, that lower resolution acts like a wide-open drag strip. The GPU can draw simple frames like lightning, which suddenly slams all the pressure right back onto the CPU to provide instructions. The CPU simply can't keep up, cratering GPU usage down to just 80%. That means a full fifth of your expensive investment is just sitting there doing nothing. But step it up to 14 to 40p, and usage climbs to 90%, and at 4K, a very healthy 98%. It perfectly captures this incredible quote: "To get better performance, they had to make the game harder to run." By shifting up to a 4K resolution, you are forcing the GPU to sweat. It has to work much harder on the visual complexity of every single frame. And because the GPU takes longer to draw those stunning frames, the CPU finally gets the breathing room it needs to prep the next set of instructions without causing a massive traffic jam.
Now let's talk about the hidden power trap, or what we can call the invisible electrical leash. What if your CPU and GPU are perfectly balanced? Let's take the ultimate dream team combo, an RTX 5090 and a Ryzen 9 9950X. During heavy testing, this monster system stubbornly refused to pass 90% GPU usage. Was the mighty Ryzen CPU the bottleneck? Absolutely not. The ceiling wasn't the processor at all, it was exactly 600 watts. That was the maximum power draw limit of the test bench's power supply.
Think of it like a master chef operating a state-of-the-art blender. The blades are razor sharp, they can pulverize ice in 2 seconds flat. But if the wall socket simply lacks the juice to let that motor spin at full speed, it doesn't matter how incredible the blender is. Even with top-tier, unbottlenecked components, if the power supply can't give them the necessary wattage, the system just cannot go full throttle. As hardware analysts noted about the RTX 5090, it wasn't slacking off, it was running up against its own electrical leash. Power delivery is a hard physical ceiling. It's a fantastic reminder that performance tuning at this elite level is a delicate dance of wattage and electricity, not just reading raw specifications off the back of a box. Okay, let's get into the zero-cost fix. These are actionable steps you can use to completely eliminate stutter right now, today.
Here is exactly how we solve these issues without you spending a single dollar. If you're suffering from a CPU bottleneck at 1080p, you literally need to force the GPU to become the bottleneck again. First, set Windows to high performance mode so your CPU gets max power. Second, and I know this sounds totally backward, turn up your graphics settings to Ultra, or run the game at 4K and downscale it to your monitor. Make that GPU work. Third, hop into your BIOS and manually set your PCI slot to Gen 4 to maximize communication speed. And finally, cap your frame rate using a tool like RivaTuner. That's going to smooth out those wild, unpredictable frame rate swings and take a massive amount of pressure off your processor.
Moving on to future tech and upgrades, pushing the absolute limits of PC hardware.
Now, if those software tweaks just aren't cutting it, we look at physical upgrades. The most direct hardware fix for those 1080p stutters is simply upgrading your processor to match the GPU's speed. Users who swapped out their budget i5 for an i5 14600K, which runs about 160 to 230 USD right now, saw a massive 30 to 40% boost in performance. And even more importantly, it utterly eradicated those choppy 1% low frame dips, returning that GPU usage to a perfect, stable 99%. But hey, when you do upgrade, you absolutely have to consider transient power spikes. These are sudden, massive, microsecond jumps in GPU power demand. Gone are the days when you could just slap in any big power supply and call it a day. With modern 50 series GPUs, you actually need next-generation ATX 3.1 standard power supplies to handle these instant electrical demands. Otherwise, you're going to trip the system's electrical leash. But you know what's genuinely fascinating? How software is evolving to bypass physical limits entirely. The 50 series GPUs introduced some insane advanced frame generation multipliers. We are moving way beyond standard 2x generation. We're now talking 3x, 4x, and even up to 6x frame generation. These algorithms natively multiply performance. They take a ton of rendering pressure off the CPU by letting the GPU's AI cores literally invent the intervening frames out of thin air.
And the software tricks get even better. Keep an eye out for natural texture compression, or NTC, expected around late 2026. This is poised to totally revolutionize budget PC builds. It uses incredibly smart software compression to simulate extra VRAM. Basically, it turns a standard 8GB graphics card into a virtual 12 to 13GB card. This completely bypasses hard physical memory limits, meaning lower-end cards will be able to handle massive modern game textures without choking. A real game changer.
Let's look even further out, right into the Sci-Fi horizon. Every single component we've talked about so far is ultimately limited by thermodynamics, heat. So what actually happens to a bottleneck if your processor generates zero heat? Enter photonic computing. We're talking about light-based processors. These don't rely on traditional electricity in the same way, meaning they bypass standard thermal limits almost entirely. By completely removing the heat equation, light-based chips will rewrite how hardware sustains peak clock speeds without ever thermal throttling. I know, it sounds totally crazy, but this technology is already being utilized in specialized applications today. All of this leads us to a massive paradigm shift in how we even think about PC building. We've seen how turning up your visual settings can actually fix a bottleneck, how invisible electrical leashes hold back the most powerful cards on Earth, and how AI is simulating hardware we don't even physically own. So, I'll leave you with this. If software tricks like natural texture compression and hardware leaps like light-based chips can completely bypass our current physical limits, will we ever actually need to traditionally upgrade our hardware again?
If you enjoy this video, please like, share, subscribe and hit the bell to the later update from my channel. Thank you for watching till the end and see you in the next video.